Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's great to have you back this week on The Catholic Citizen, where we're covering a very huge decision from the United States Supreme Court. And then I have some interesting announcements for you towards the end of the show, so stick around. It's going to be a great show this week on The Catholic Citizen. I've missed you. I know I've been kind of inconsistent in a couple weeks here as I get settled into a new position. More on that in a little bit. Before we jump into the meat of the show, because there's so much covering in our world and country today, I want to spend some time just thanking so much Casa Bea Cleaning for their tremendous support. All these shows that we've been doing through the Catholic Citizen, we couldn't keep the lights on and running without Casa Bea. So Casa Bea, thank you for supporting us. If you need help cleaning your home or office, keeping it and making sure it's COVID-19 free, please support and patron Casa Bea Cleaning. They're supporting us because we're a pro-life show. So we love to support pro-life businesses. Please support Casa Bea Cleaning today. Also, you can still become a citizen of heaven. You can still be a part of the Catholic Citizen as we discern kind of what's next in our journey here, presenting the week's news from a Catholic perspective, a biased Catholic perspective nonetheless. But if you'd like to be a part of that discussion about what we do moving forward, please consider going to thecatholiccitizen.com and supporting us today. All right, folks, this week's news, just yesterday, and I don't have my notes, so I'm going to be a little uncomfortable here, but just bear with me. But just yesterday, the United States Supreme Court ruled 6-3 to strike down the unconstitutional Biden mandate that came from the administration that would require employers that had over 100 employees to mandate that everyone receive the vaccination or take a negative test. Now, this is absolutely tremendous, huge news. This is a victory to celebrate for individual personal liberty and freedom. We have to thank God that this decision came down because we know that it would not have ended at 100 employees. Think about how arbitrary that number is. Have you heard anybody from the CDC, the FDA, the NIH explain why 100 employees was the magic number that they were going to require vaccination from individuals? This despite the fact that we know that the vaccination does not stop spread. I mean, the science, folks, it's clear. The masks do not stop spread. We know the CDC admitted this week that 75% of the deaths that we hear about that are often kind of put in people's faces to say, look, why aren't you taking this serious? Now, you can take the virus seriously, but also keep things in context. So here's one of the contexts that have been hidden from public eye. But the CDC admitted it this week, that 75% of the deaths due to COVID-19 were with individuals with 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 comorbidities. So 4 other things that could cause death. So we're talking about heart disease and diabetes and other serious illnesses. So 75% of the people who've died, God rest their souls, died because of 4 other comorbidities that they also had. Friends, that helps us keep in context when we're looking at our responses and what our response should be to the virus. And right now we know so much more than we used to know during those first 2 weeks of slowing the spread. Yet we're still using the slow the spread tactics in those first 2 weeks, 2 years later. Beyond that, we're now just kind of making things up as we go along. The CDC has changed the number of days that you have to quarantine because, as in Dr. Fauci's words, we want to make sure that the economy just keeps going. So we're making decisions not based upon health or science anymore. We're making decisions, well, don't get me started. With that being said, let me say this. Melody Lyons, if you're not following Melody Lyons on Facebook, you should. My wife turned me on to her. But she said this about the Supreme Court decision, because while there was a 6-3 decision in favor of not mandating the vaccine for employers of 100 and more, they said that you can, in a 5-4 decision, mandate it for healthcare workers. So all our great healthcare workers, those individuals who worked all through the pandemic, but decided not to get vaccinated, but still went in to care for COVID-19 patients, they've been fired. 250 from Akron's hospital just the other day. But Melody Lyons says this about the Supreme Court's split decision. I'm finding it hard to celebrate getting back some of the crumbs of liberty that was stolen from us. This is a net win for the left. They don't need every victory. They just need an inch at a time. Some of us are getting some breathing room, and that's good. But the tyrants got a SCOTUS ruling that allows the Fed to mandate for approximately 22 million people. Additionally, the ruling does not get your job back if you have lost it. I know plenty of individuals who have lost their jobs because of this mandate, who reached out to me, individuals who are of the Protestant faith, who reached out, they were working at a Catholic entity, and they lost their jobs because the Catholic entity was enforcing this vaccine mandate, and the Protestants said, I don't want anything to do with any vaccines that have any development with an aborted fetal cell line. And yet the Catholic, it doesn't force colleges to stop mandating. It doesn't prevent private businesses from mandating. It doesn't give a reprieve to the military. Spoke to many of our military personnel that didn't want to take the shot for many different reasons, but they have been relieved of duty, not only relieved of duty, but taken away from benefits for the rest of their life for serving in our military and country and protecting and defending us because they didn't want to put a foreign substance into their body. Look, again, the Catholic Church's official teaching is there is no vaccine which is morally obligatory. Period. That is the official church teaching. You can say that it's an act of care for your fellow man to get it. You could make the argument, a good theological argument to say, it's good to maybe get a vaccine to take care of the wider population. You can make all that argument. I'm not saying that's not true. But I'm also saying at the same time, it is also true that the church teaches there's nothing that's morally obligatory when it comes to vaccines. And you can hold both at the same time as being true. But you have this side of the church which is just telling you the one side. And that's all that's been presented to you because that's been the church's messaging. Why we've ignored the other part of the church's messaging, I don't know. Nonetheless, it doesn't reverse the diocesan mandates, Melody continues, which were not forced by the government, but which were done because of vaccines are a blessing and forced charity is a thing now with some bishops, I guess. I'm not trying to rain on the parade. I hope we remain in the battle and ultimately win, which necessitates understanding our true position. We, or some of we, have a reprieve, but we have not yet won this battle. I was reading an article just today from USA Today. What are the other mechanisms that the Biden administration might use to enforce vaccines? So the Biden administration is not done. We cannot be done either. And, again, I think it's a huge win, and we can't underestimate how big of a win, because sometimes you just need a win in the battle. You need a win in the war to win one war, and that can turn the tide. And please God, maybe we're finally getting there. Europe is actually looking at COVID-19 no longer as a pandemic, but looking as an endemic. Bill Gates just came out the other day and said after Omicron is over, it's going to be kind of like the seasonal flu. So you have some of those leading individuals, whether it's countries or people who have been pushing the vaccine as the final solution, saying, hey, we might be even nearing the end here. So if those individuals who have been far left on this have been saying we might be nearing the end, please God, maybe we can be there. However, some people, again, in the administration just simply don't get this. Second story. Craig Melvin of NBC recently was interviewing Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, when asked if it's time to change the administration's strategy on COVID, because clearly it hasn't been working, and again, we had from the campaign, President Joe Biden, how many times did he say, I will end this virus? President Trump doesn't have a plan, but I have a plan. I will end this virus. I mean, has the virus been ended? No, of course not. But this is what people sink their teeth into, and they believe that somehow the other guy is going to have the answers to stopping a virus which is transmitted simply through the air. I mean, you don't stop these things. They simply happen. Anyway, Harris responds when she was asked if it's time to change, the administration's response. She says, quote, "It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down. It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day." This is the Vice President of the United States of America. And look, we all slip up and we all say things. I say things all the time that simply don't make sense. But that really doesn't make sense. It's time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day is a time for us to agree. I mean, folks, oh, man. Okay, number 3. But these are the individuals, right, that are heading up our National Education Association and, fighting for our unions and schools and everything like that. And our school systems, though, boy, they're in trouble. Please pray for them. Moline, Illinois, an elementary school there, putting up a poster to let the kids know that there is an after-school Satan club available to them that they can come and, learn about Satan and the evil one. Oh, that's wonderful. Some parents got angry about this and giving the mountain concerns. They got a response from the superintendent, Dr. Rachel Savage, who wrote a letter to the parents saying, I want to take a moment and share some additional information regarding the after-school club that you may have heard about. She wrote, I know there are many mounting concerns and questions. I hear you and I understand. Do you really? Because she went on to say that, quote, the facility rental for this school activity was not generated by the district, and it's not affiliated with James Adams or the district. It is nothing that involves or impacts the school day. Oh, thank goodness. It doesn't impact the school day, so at least they're not teaching Satan during science class. But right after school, you can run and learn about the evil one. She continues that a parent from our district reached out to the National After School Satan Club, informing them that the James Adam Elementary School in Moline offers a child evangelism fellowship club, and asked them that they bring their program to that school as well to offer parents a choice of different viewpoints. So we've found ourselves now in a country where, because we're offering learning about God, learning about Jesus, learning about, even if you don't believe Jesus is God, learning about someone who talks about loving thy neighbor, because we're offering that, we must offer people who talk about Satan, who has satanic rituals when it comes to abortion, talks about, we've lost our minds. We've lost our minds. There's no other. We've lost our soul as a country because we feel like we need to offer. Think about this for a minute. If you're in an after-school program, and say you're teaching, you have an after-school program that is teaching about the sanctity of marriage after school, and you're letting kids know about how beautiful marriage is and how we should encourage marriage, and this is things you should be prepared for in marriage, right? You're letting them know kind of what it's all about. Do you feel like you have to be open to every sexual preference then? Including, say, for example, do you feel like we should then allow individuals who are sexually attracted to children, pedophilias, to come into the school and tell them about what pedophilia is all about? Do we feel the need to do that? Do we have to be tolerant of every single opinion and viewpoint out there? No, we don't. Here's a simple answer. We can be tolerant of people, but we can't be tolerant of every single idea, because not every single idea is good for people, including like a Satan after-school club for little kids, including people who believe in pedophilia. And you think I'm like, well, that's just an extreme example. Out of the USA Today, number 4, USA Today, it's one of the nation's most widely circulated newspapers, ran an article that presented pedophilias as a misunderstood condition and suggested, quote, destigmatizing the attraction to children. I do not misunderstand pedophilia at all, Jennifer Roback Moore said, a former Yale economics professor who founded the Pro-Family Ruth Institute in response to the USA Today running this article. She said the architects of the sexual revolution declared without proof that all sexual restraints were outmoded taboos that were well rid of. But the sexual taboos protect the interests of children, but not to the USA Today, and not to these crazy individuals who are educating our kids in school. So either become hyper involved in what's taking place in your kid's school, or get them the heck out of there. I'm getting my kids the heck out of there. I'm not even putting them in the first place. Because who knows? I mean, they've become just classrooms of ideological download, which is crazy. Including, and if you don't think, I mean, we've already highlighted this in the show, where pornography is being taught to kids in schools, all types of different sexual relationships, which is outside the biological, the anthropological norms are being taught to our kids. It's all part of the curriculum, folks. All right, number 5. I mean, this can't come as a big surprise to us when we're allowing in our nation now male swimmers to compete and break every female record there is when it comes to swimming by simply claiming that they're female. Now, you may have heard about this. I talked about the young gentleman from, I believe, the University of Pennsylvania who was smashing some of these female records in swimming. Well, he finally lost. But he lost to another transgender swimmer from Yale. So the only time he's actually losing, look, he's smashing some of these records by 30 seconds in the pool. He finished a 1,600-meter freestyle event 38 seconds ahead of the second place finisher. I mean, if you don't think that biology plays a part and gives someone a little bit of an advantage, and I don't care what hormones they might be taking, they remain, from a skeletal and a muscular perspective, male. Biological perspective, male. DNA perspective, male. Those things aren't changing. So you can have a surgery that may change one of your body parts, but it doesn't change any of those other things. All right, on to the pro-life fund. A coalition spearheaded by the Susan B. Anthony list of nearly 50 pro-life organizations has sent a letter urging U.S. senators to oppose the nomination of pro-abortion Dr. Robert Khalif. I believe his hearing was supposed to be yesterday. I don't know if they took a vote or not, but they actually, the head of the committee, the Democrat, actually turned off the lights. They didn't want this to be on TV. So some Republican lawmakers were fighting this, but Khalif, you might know his name from the Obama administration. He is the one who lessened the restrictions on the RU-486 pill, the medical abortion pill, making reporting much less important for this. The man really doesn't care about women's health. All he cares about is making sure that abortion is more accessible. I mean, the safe, legal, and rare that we heard from the Clintons in the 1990s is no longer apparent. All abortion people want it is to be legal. Legal. That's all they want. And this individual who's just been nominated by the Biden administration, and this is where, like, when you talk to your Catholic friends, you're like, well, look, Joe Biden is nice and he talks nicer than Trump. First of all, he doesn't. He's calling individuals who disagree with him on the voting measures that they're trying to change and everything like that, if they don't agree with him, that they're complete racists, including like Tim Scott of South Carolina. But anyway, with that being said, he nominates people to positions of power that that are okay with killing babies. So this is one of the reasons that you don't vote for a pro-abortion politician for president or for governor or for senator, because they hold positions of power which put other people in positions of authority, and then more children die because you voted for them. It's really that simple. I mean, look at the rest of the spectrum of life issues. Do you feel like those issues that you may have voted for them outweigh the negative impacts that they're having on abortion, now funding it to billions of dollars again overseas, to now appointing to these individuals to all these positions of leadership, advancing the destruction of children? Is it really worth it? Has President Biden done anything on the death penalty that you cared about? Has he done anything on immigration that you're like, oh, wow, yeah, this is really balancing out these life issues? But another example, New Jersey legislator just passed a bill legalizing abortion violence up to the point of baby's birth. Governor Phil Murphy claims to be Catholic, expected to sign the so-called Reproductive Freedom Act that would guarantee, quote, the fundamental right of reproductive autonomy. I put this squarely on our leadership in the church, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, each one of our bishops, each one of our priests, each one of our lay leaders, each one of us, because we're leaders too in the church. And when you have Catholic politicians who continue year in and year out to claim the Catholic faith as their own, to continue to receive the source and summit of the faith, the source and sign of our unity, but then are allowed to promote and push forward pro-abortion policies which are killing the most innocent among us. I mean, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, and rightly so, tell us that the primary issue that we should be concerned about, first and foremost, not that we dismiss any of the others, but we must support innocent human life. If we can't support and protect innocent human life, if we can't support the right to life, then how can we claim the human person has any other right? So that's kind of like a non-negotiable issue. Pope Benedict, when he was Pope, said that. Said, look, this is foundational. It's a non-negotiable issue. Pope Francis has called the right to life the cornerstone of the common good. And yet, for some reason, we in the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops here in the United States have a hard time telling these pro-abortion politicians who also claim the Catholic faith, hey, you probably shouldn't be receiving communion. And in fact, when you come up to receive, you're not going to be able to receive until you repent and change your ways on these things. But we don't do it. We're afraid of being political, I guess. Look, it's already political. I feel like there's a cat in here making noises or something. Anyway, it's as simple as that. And look, you're already viewed, speaking to our bishops and others right now, and us, we're already viewed as being political. And I really don't care much less about being Democrat or Republican, whatever it may be. I care about if you're pro-life. And that's where I'm just saying, if you're not living out your faith, if you're not living out the pro-life message in the public square, something needs to be done from the Catholic Church perspective. All right. There is like there's a dog or cat or something making noise over here. But anyway, that's okay. Let's finish up. New job, same mission, and new discernment. So if you don't know, I just took a new position beginning in January as Executive Director of Ohio Right to Life. Tremendously excited about this particular position to be able to share the gospel of life in all 88 counties here in the great state of Ohio. But this transition has led me to be a little bit more busy, if you will. So that's why you haven't seen me week in and week out here at the Catholic Citizen. And we're trying to take a look at my radio show, Say Yes to Life, and Catholic Citizen. And can we combine those things? Can we continue with this podcast? What do I kind of have time for? Also continuing to help lead the March for Life for the Diocese of Toledo, which I'm tremendously excited about. It's great to take 110 individuals down to Washington, D.C. Allison Stump, if you're watching, thanks for all your help there at the diocese. But in the midst of the transition, we got some medical diagnoses about my little girl, Gianna, who I love more than anything. And she had to have an MRI just this past week, in fact. So it's left us a little busy. But I want to thank you so much if you've been praying for Gianna. The MRI results, praise God, came out great. And if you've ever been involved in an MRI, I mean, the machine is it's like standing next to a jackhammer, right? So I'm outside the MRI holding my little girl's foot as she's in the machine and everything. And I'm like having a panic attack because these noises are just so pounding and they're so scary. Meanwhile, all the prayers just flooded over Gianna. I could just see the grace of God on her as she stood still, didn't need to be sedated or anything for 40 minutes. For 40 minutes, just laid still. The nurse only interrupted her twice, just say, okay, we're going to do this now, this, whatever. But 2 times the nurse came in. The rest of those 40 minutes, Gianna just completely stood still. But in the midst of, going through that with Gianna, now we can tackle what she's been diagnosed with and everything of that nature. It reminded me about kind of what's most important. And as much as I love doing this show, I have to keep God first in my life. I have to keep my family right underneath our Heavenly Father. And I got to keep them first. I got to make sure I have enough time. And so part of my discernment is just making sure in this new role with Ohio Right to Life, which is going to keep me really busy, that I'm keeping those priorities straight. So thank you for your patience as I discern these things. Please continue to pray for me. Let me know if you want the Catholic Citizen to continue. It's helpful to know, to hear from people. Nick shared last week that in December we had 2,500 people listen to the show. But, again, it's just helpful to hear whether you like the show, whether you like to see it continue or not. Let me just end the show with this. As I said, with, Gianna's health problems and everything like that, just the prayers make a difference. And whether this is my last show or not, just an invitation, especially in our world today, to continue to pray. Continue to pray to our Father in heaven. Commit yourselves anew to deeper and more intimate prayer. I'm beginning a journey with Nick and some others, Exodus 90 here in a week or so, where we're committing to some asceticism, to daily holy hours and everything. And look, prayers make a difference. Prayer is the difference. Prayer is communion with God. And that's the goal of our life, is to live with him forever. So we can't do any of this without him. So if nothing else, after this show today, let's just take a few minutes and just spend some silent time with God. Thomas Merton once said that silence, like the sunlight, will illuminate you in God. Let us be illuminated in him, because it is only God, it is only gospel of Jesus Christ that is going to remake our world today and give us hope that the kingdom will indeed come. Thank you, my brothers and sisters. Continue to be the best Catholic citizens you can be, and we hope to see you soon.